Hello and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. Tech Tuesday is when I look at something tech that's not related to RC or FPV, and because I like tech and the product interested me. What we have today is a rather large package. This is the Yaber K3 projector, and it's interesting for perhaps not the right reasons. When I was contacted about this, I asked what the projector was. I said to them, I assume it's DLP and can do 4K, because I think that's kind of the standard of projection at the moment. For those that don't know, I used to have a dedicated home cinema room, and if you saw some of my early flying videos, you would have seen me going through it. And back then, this was my projector. This is the Panasonic PTA 500, which was a great projector for the time, and I got this in 2004, so it's over 20 years old. But this is an LCD projector. It did 720p native, and you can see it's so old. Look, it's even got a SCART connection and DVI instead of HDMI. So what surprised me about the new one is it's also LCD. I thought LCD was gone. I thought DLP was it, and its native resolution is 1080p, not 4K. I talked to Yaber about this, and I said, well, you know, what gives? Why is it not 4K and stuff? And they said, it's really good. Try it, you'll be amazed. So here we go. We've got an updated LCD projector. Now there are a couple of interesting features about this. First off, it's very bright. Its lumens rating is 1600. My old projector was like 850. In some ways though, it doesn't really matter how bright the projection can be, because when you're talking about projectors, you can't project black. So you always need a darkened room at the very least, because otherwise your dark areas on the screen will be quite light. But it says it's got built-in Google TV, you can put apps on, it's got built-in speakers and has some sort of Dolby audio processing, it has smart voice control so you can tell it to, you know, play your favourite movie or something. And it's got some auto setup features, so it can figure out where to put its screen and do the keystoning correctly. Keystoning, if you don't know, if you haven't got it perfectly aligned, obviously one side of the screen is going to be slightly bigger than the other because you'll be projecting an angle, and keystoning sort of tries to correct that both vertically and horizontally. So yeah, we'll check it out. Find out what's in the box first, because it's pretty heavy, and we'll take it from there. Well, the box completely fills the frame of the camera, but let's get this thing open, see what's inside. Okay, so in the top, HDMI cable, power lead, remote control, got some fast buttons there for like Netflix, Disney Prime and YouTube, and then we've got the big thing. Well, I've gone ahead and got that out. Here's the front. It seems to have an infrared receiver there. It says sound by JBL. It's quite large, and I guess that's because it's got these speakers in the side there. Some sort of music button, looks like sleep, plus, minus, volume I guess, power button probably, and connectivity. We've got two HDMIs, a USB, a headphone jack and an Ethernet port. That's kind of different. Also in that bit we got a quick start guide here and just some marketing material. Right, so now we have to turn this on and see what we can get. So I've just got the projector in my lounge and I've just turned it on and it got itself its own focus. There's actually a button to do this, but it did it automatically. If we set autofocus, it figures out what's going on. I guess it's got something that can actually look at those cubes and says, yeah, we're in focus, because there's no external focus button here, so that's all it's got pretty much. So I'm just going to go through the setup. As you can see, the throw distance from about 2 and a bit meters is pretty big. I'd say it's 80 something inches. My TV is 65 inches and this looks like 85-ish. So set up the language, English. Oh, okay, so it's got a manual focus as well. So you can let it go completely out of focus, and then if you hit the autofocus button, it's like, oh yeah, I'll fix that for you. So that's quite neat. Keystone seems alright, but let's do an auto keystone, why not? Alright, so we need to connect to Wi-Fi. Okay, connected to my Wi-Fi, and I have to actually move it to see the whole screen. Setup complete. Oh, it's doing its own noise. It's not a bad speaker actually. And the picture's pretty good to say there's a lot of ambient light right now. Turn it down a bit. The picture is not bad. There's quite a lot of compression artifacts in that particular bit, so we're going to need to look at something else. Now, the thing you used to get with LCD projectors is something called a screen door effect, where you can kind of see almost like a wire mesh type thing behind it. So we'll be looking to see what's going on with that. So I am going to set myself up with stuff like Netflix or something. But I was interested to see if I could actually shrink the display a bit. You can position this upside down because you've got the option of front or rear table that you can actually project onto a screen that put the projector behind it, and the fact you've got ceiling suggests you can go upside down and do that. That's good. So zoom screen, okay, just gonna see if I can fit it on my wall at least, then move it around just a bit. It's again, it doesn't auto, it basically detected it moved and is now like, hey, or we're going to redo the keystoning and autofocus. So let's narrow it down a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is just going to wind it down a touch. It's got this little leg here where you can angle it up about 10 degrees, but looking at what I've got there, I'm going to angle it back down. The annoying thing is whenever it does the autofocus or the keystone, it goes back to 100%, which is not what I'm after. Okay, so you can see that the screen is now the right size, but I've got this at quite an angle, so the keystoning is off. You can see it's bigger this side than that side, so I'll just see if we can manually do that, because as soon as I say auto do it, it seems to resize the screen. Okay, that's about straight, and that's 88%. Again, we're in quite an ambiently lit room here, so we need nice and bright projector to work. So I'm going to try looking at see if I can get into YouTube and Netflix, that sort of thing. So whilst I was looking how to use Google Home to scan a QR code, it just suddenly powered off and it's decided to do its own update. There might be something in there that says, don't do updates without me saying, but clearly that wasn't pressed if there is one, so it's doing its own thing now. Well, the Google TV install was quite long, but it seems to want to get logins for all your other apps. So I don't know if this now controls Netflix and Prime, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not blazingly fast setting this up, but it seems all right. Okay, so you'll probably recognise this as the Matrix Reloaded. This is where it's going to suffer in ambient light. Although what it can display here is very bright, of course the dark bits is just the wall, and the wall is like beigey white sort of colour. So you lose the contrast of the dark colours, but on brighter things it does better. So what I've done here, I've gone into Google TV. Google TV says, yeah, Netflix, it knows my password, so it signs in. So if I put something brighter on, about a rem and a half, I've muted this just because of like copyright stuff. Bright stuff with no dark bits is going to look really good. So it's just a case of having what you want depending on your conditions. If you've got a completely dark room, you'll have a lot better experience. This is, as I said, ambiently lit. There's bright light out there. There's an amount of light coming through there. But yeah, we get a very bright image from this, what is it, 1800 lumens or something? Very nice. So what I'm doing here is comparing the projector screen to my 4K TV. And it does pretty good. It's much brighter on the TV, and the darks are darker, and the contrast is better, as you might expect. But considering we're in relatively daylight conditions, that is a pretty good result. I'm trying to put them sort of side by side so you can see. I think you get the gist there. Of course, this is also 1080 versus 4K, so there's a slight difference there. But yeah, it's maybe like things are a little bit slightly washed out on the projector. You just haven't got the same contrast to the dark colours, but it's pretty good. Okay, over to YouTube now, and I'm watching one of my videos because I know I won't get hit by copyright claim. Just before we get to the flying, a quick word from our sponsor, which today is PCBWay. PCBWay,
let's get to the actual flying part. So I just want to check.
Too early, so it doesn't need to, you know, worry me until it gets like minus 105 or something. But it's flashing away there, as you can see.
It's really quite impressive.
But yeah, everything's very readable and everything looks
how loud we
good,
are,
generally speaking.
It's actually quite
from
low.
the DVR. As I explained,
really loud with
I'm getting my from my NVR.
So yeah,
this is a smooth 60 frames a second. Never drops a frame.
You don't need to plug this into anything in particular.
Receiver
seems all right.
That's going into the tablet is literally right.
One thing I like to do when testing out any sort of screen is put some 4K on. Now this won't handle 4K, but it would scale it to 1080p. So that's what we want to find out how it looks. Again, the picture looks really nice. I cannot see any particular sign of the screen door effect. So it looks like LCD projectors have improved quite a bit since last time. Of course, this is only about 75 inches. It could be a different story if we got it up to like 200 inches. My old projector screen was about 100 and something inches. I can't remember exactly what, but it was pretty big, and I could certainly see that screen door effect if I concentrated on from my Panasonic projector. But this looks pretty good just against my wall. Yeah, it's quite impressive. And I haven't even done what, you know, most people would do, which is to connect something straight up to HDMI, because most of the things I'm watching are actually sort of here. So this is Google TV, and Google TV seems to log into everything for you. So it knows the passwords for all my things, and I can just go in and watch whatever. Well, here's Disney Plus. That's all good. Just using some of the shortcut settings here. So if we go on to Prime Video, it's probably going to say, can I use this password that I know? Okay, that's nicely signed in now. Everything seems to be cool there. Oh, new season. We like Reacher. Yay, something to watch tonight. If we listen to it now, we can hear a little fan noise, and it's blowing out really hot air there. I think it's that button, but I've also got it here on the screen. So let's try hitting that now. So its current equipment is already very quiet, but it slowed the fan down. I guess it will try and protect itself from overheating though. Let's turn that off again. We've got things like screen share and HDMI, which I'll check out. But this is the main thing. I can do so much from here, because basically it's got all my normal apps that I connect to. I can't see BBC there, but I'm sure I can add that. Weirdly, it didn't have Plex. I used Plex for my own equipment, and that didn't seem to be present on the store. But let's try plugging something HDMI in, shall we? Okay, it's just another system update, and I had to reset on my screen again. What I've done is I've plugged in HDMI to an old Xbox. This is an Xbox One X, not to be confused with the Xbox Series. This is the previous one, but the Xbox One X allowed UHD Blu-rays to play, and also games, which I thought I'd go ahead and start it and see what we got there. So I have to now say we want an HDMI. Presumably it's the first one. Let's have a look. That looks like Xbox. Okay. Horizon Motorsport 3. Trying to play this while resting my phone up on my leg there. We've got the sound on, so we can hear. A little bit of drift. So the sound sounds a bit weird because it's coming from a single source. I'd be used to playing with surround sound in my games room, but it's very playable. I can imagine getting together.
Hey, I've heard a lot of good things about this driver. I think we should try and get them to sign up to your lineup.
Yeah, hang on, let's move this. I think, I think. What I was going to say is, I can imagine getting together with a bunch of friends, projecting this on a great big wall, even outside 200 inches or so. But there's not that many games where you can do couch co-op now. I suppose Gears of War, something like that. Split screen games aren't really a thing anymore, are they? But yeah, again, this is nice and bright. Yeah, you don't have to run a blacks, so it looks really good. It's only 1080, but it looks fairly good for 1080, and it's certainly very playable. I've just stuck a Blu-ray in and muted the sound, of course. This is Ready Player One, the opening scene with the big race. Again, it looks pretty good. There's more dark bits in this though, so again, we're losing contrast where we haven't got a completely dark room and stuff like that. But again, it looks very good for an LCD projector. Maybe I was too quick to say DLP is where it's at, although DLP 4K seems to be where it's at for anybody that takes their home cinema very seriously. Now, if you get in close, you can start to see the individual pixels, which is kind of what leads to that screen door effect, that kind of netting thing. But from a distance of more than a few feet, it seems very good. You have to get very close to actually see that.
Okay, a few more things to show you whilst we've got it here. The first is, because there's a decent speaker in it, you could use it as a Bluetooth speaker. So if we go over to Bluetooth speaker, it simply says connect it with the projector and we should be able to play some music. So if I connect to that, I have gone and literally found a royalty-free music thing on Spotify, so don't expect amazing things, but God, that does sound awful. And you've got some control, so you can fast forward a track and it tells you what it is, or you've also got the option to turn it off, so it's just a speaker, and then it will just act as a speaker, and then if you want to, you can just press something on the remote and it will come back again. Nice and easy. So the other thing you might want to do is share your phone screen with it, and you could do this in a variety of ways if you go across to screen share. I'm just going to use the first one here, which is this thing called Anytime, where you could just go in and mirror it from your normal screen. So if we do that, you can see my phone screen on there. So if I come out of there, so I could play a simulator, for example. Turn it down a bit. Looks pretty good as far as the latency goes. Can't really feel much in it, but you can see we're pretty much doing the screen. Of course, normally you might be sort of playing a video or sharing photos or something like that, but the point is pretty easy to do, and you can just come back out of that and disconnect the screens. So that is pretty flexible. So I've just changed room here and I've turned the light on so you can see me at all, and I wanted to see what sort of image we could get with the sort of throw distance we're talking about. So throw distance wise, it's a bit rough, but we're approximately 8 feet or about 244 centimetres, and the image we're getting here is approximately 86 inches or just over 7 feet. So you want 100 inch, 200 inches, you've got to go back quite a bit more. But again, with daylight, slightly gloomy, but that's a pretty good image to say we're in ambient light. And again, we'd need to set this up. This isn't even full. That's 100%. Well, hello, I'm in the garden. I've got the projector out. It's 7:30 at night. It's quite dark. I wanted to see what sort of display we could have at the wall. Now, a wall, not necessarily the best thing because you'll see the bricks. But if you're outside, you had a great big old white sheet or a white wall, then you'd probably get quite a good image. You're probably wondering, if we're outside in the nothingness, then how are you going to stream stuff? Well,
You can also put movies on a USB stick, which I've got. So I'm going to test it out. This image is about, I guess it's around 200 inches. It's like yay tall and even wider. What I'm going to do is go to a file manager, my USB drive, and for example, we look at House of the Dragon, not those ones because those are the ones made by a Mac. Turn the volume down quickly, else we're going to get copyright strike. So there we have a good 200-inch image on the wall, which actually doesn't look too bad, I have to say. So far, let's go on a bit. It's subtitled for some reason. So far, it seems to play all the formats I've given it. This is H.265. I've got also some. This is an MP4 file. It's the film Tetris. Again, I've taken the volume off for copyright stuff, but it sounds quite reasonable out here. I just invited this young lady. And then what else we got? Canada Secretary. This is an AVI file, so it seems to handle everything. Not a problem. Of course, the bricks don't really add to it. A white wall would be better, but yeah, it's pretty good.
So in summary, and normally I do these when I hold up the item, this is quite heavy, so I'm going to put it down. Just pretend it's still here. So this projector is positioned as a piece of home cinema equipment, and I think that does a disservice. Home cinema enthusiasts will have at the least 4K UHD. They'll have a separate surround sound amp and speakers, and this doesn't do that. It's low resolution, it's got its own speaker, it's all very functional, but it's not home cinema. What I think this should be positioned as is a replacement for a smart TV, because that's how it feels. Now I've got a 65-inch TV down there, so I could imagine if that wasn't there, if I didn't want the TV dominating the room, I could position the projector up on the ceiling, on the back wall, project down, and enjoy my content that way. If you were going to do something like that, you have to look at the very best options. I had a good image from the projector. It's very bright. It can produce very vivid colours, but where you've got ambient light coming in, you obviously lose contrast on those docks. The brain does a great job of trying to fill in and saying, this looks black to me. It's amazing quite how well that works. But the sort of better environment you've got, the better it looks. So if you can make it darker, it will look great. If you've got a proper projector screen, they reflect the light a lot better. And when I was making my original screen, I was on AV forums a lot on the DIY stuff, and the general agreement that there was this specific paint called Ice White 6. So you get your big screen and you paint it with that, and it looks pretty good. And it did look pretty good. So my sort of off-white beigey colour, not the best. So if you're going to do this, you'd want something more white at the very least. I like the Google TV app. It seemed to work very well because most people use Chrome, and Chrome already knew what apps I use, like, you know, Netflix and Prime and Disney, and it's like, oh yeah, we know your password, we'll sign that in for you, we'll download the app for you, and we'll go from there. Really nice interface, that one. And again, it feels much more like a smart TV than using a projector. I mentioned I couldn't find Plex when I looked. I just checked on the Plex page and it says it should be available for Android or Google TV apps. So it's perhaps a question of I wasn't looking in the right place or something. It should be available. I do like the autofocus thing. It's very good. It must have a little camera on the front that basically looks and sees if things are focused. It also had this thing called, and I used it, although I didn't tell you about it specifically, obstacle avoidance, where if something's in the way, what it will do is shrink the screen down so it sort of fits there, and that worked quite well. I was kind of annoyed that every time I used it, it would redo it and change everything. You can actually turn that off so you can get control over it yourself. For most people, you'd probably have it, if you're using it as like a smart TV, you'd have it set up on a shelf or some sort of mount, and you wouldn't touch it again. So it's not really a big deal unless you're moving it around a lot. And connectivity wise, I thought that was quite nice. 2 HDMIs, maybe one for a Blu-ray if you're into your physical collecting like I am, one for a video game console, and I like the fact it had Ethernet, because of course depending where your router is, you may not get the best Wi-Fi in your house. We've got a mesh network, so it gets pretty good there, but wired internet is always going to outperform wireless by a massive factor. So yes, this has been the Yaber K3 Smart Projector, kindly supplied by Yaber, so thanks to them very much. And if you think you might be interested in one of these and want to check it out in more detail, of course there'll be a link down below. I hope that review's been helpful, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.